Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephania Cox. Happening right now, President Biden is giving a speech with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The two just signed a security pact on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Italy. The 10-year agreement ensures a long-term U.S. support for Ukraine. Biden is giving details about training the Ukrainian military and investing in Ukrainian industries. He's also been speaking about the threat from Russia. Then Zelenskyy expressed gratitude for the support. Let's take a look.
Thanks, Mr. President. About 2 weeks ago, you changed course to allow Ukraine to fire U.S. weapons into Russia. Given the reported successes, would you consider further expanding the parameters on U.S. weapons into Russia, even despite your concerns about escalation? And on the news from home, you're going through something that so many American families go through, the intersection of addiction and the criminal justice system, but you're not like most families. Was your son able to get a fair trial? Do you believe the Justice Department operated independently of politics? And for President...
Let me answer your question and you ask his question, okay? With regard to the first question, it is clear that the near abroad, meaning just across the line of the border with Russia and Ukraine, that it makes a lot of sense for Ukraine to be able to take out or combat what is coming across that border. In terms of long-range weapons, longer-range weapons into the interior of Russia, we have not changed our position on that sort. With regard to the question regarding the family, I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know, and I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
President Zelenskyy, a number of leaders here in Italy, including President Biden, are facing upcoming election challenges. How will the security agreement signed tonight and the other promises of support continue if they are not in office? And what's your contingency plan if they don't?
Дякую вам за запитання. If I can I answer in Ukrainian language? Yes, thank you so much. Передусім, я хочу подякувати народам всіх країн, безумовно, Сполученим Штатам, країнам Європи, інших континентів, які нас підтримували з самого початку абсолютно несправедливої війни Росії проти людей України. І саме так вони вбивали людей. Домівки, територія, все це дуже важливо, це частина життя, але перш за все люди, життя людей. Розумієте? Так, і тому ця війна була несправедлива з самого початку. Війна цього зла, ім'я його Путін, проти людей України. І він вбив дуже багато людей. Казати, що це не він, що це військовий, це інструмент для нього. Розумієте, він грає на цьому інструменті. І тому для нас дуже важливо було, що з самого початку нас підтримали люди, народи, тому що вони зрозуміли, що ми поділяємо спільні цінності, ми просто хочемо жити, і люди розуміли, вони уявили, що буде, якщо на них нападе таке зло. І тому нас люди підтримали. І я дякую і президенту Байдену, і іншим лідерам, які з самого початку вторгнення Путіна почали нас підтримувати. Вони базуючись на своїх цінностях. Вони базувались на голосі їх людей, їх народів. І без народу це неможливо. І я впевнений, цей народ обирає собі лідерів, обирає президентів. І мені здається, що кого б не обрав народи, передусім, мені здається, все залежить від єдності всередині тієї чи іншої держави. І якщо з нами буде народ, то будь-який лідер також буде з нами в цій боротьбі за свободу. Yeah, with pleasure. Thank you so much. Так, будь ласка, телеканал Інтер.
Irina Ivanova, InterTV channel Ukraine, and I have a question for both leaders. So today, during the G7 meeting, the discussion focused on developing Ukraine's air defense system based on the most advanced Western complexes and also on enhancing long-range capabilities. So my question is, can you provide any details on the initiative and about the readiness of our allies to take part in it? Thank you.
I'd be happy to respond to that. We have acquired commitment from 5 countries so far for Patriot batteries and other air defense systems, as well as we've let it be known to those countries that are expecting from us air defense systems in the future, that they're going to have to wait. Everything we have is going to go to Ukraine until their needs are met, and then we will make good on the commitments we made to other countries.
I think President Biden already answered your question. Really, he knows, and all other partners, they know that urgently we need 7 Patriot systems. Yes, to save our cities, not all of them, it's a pity, but urgently 7. And we discussed the possibility of having 5 of them. It's true, but the partners work on it. It doesn't mean that tomorrow we will have these 5 systems, but we see in the closest future good result for Ukraine.
You'll have some relatively quickly. American reporter, Josh Weingrove, Bloomberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for President Zelenskyy shortly on the announcements, but if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you about your discussions on the situation in Gaza here at the summit. You were asked just a short time ago about it after the skydiving demonstration. Can you give us your assessment of Hamas's response? And do you believe that they are trying to work towards a deal, or is this response working against a deal? And what is your message to allies, including those here at the G7, about what more, if anything, the U.S. can do to drive towards a peace agreement? Thank you.
I wish you guys would play by the rules a little bit. I'm here to talk about a critical situation in Ukraine. You asked me another subject. I'll be happy to answer it in detail later. But the bottom line is that we've made an agreement. I've laid out an approach that has been endorsed by the UN Security Council, by the G7, by the Israelis, and the biggest hang-up so far is Hamas refusing to sign on, even though they have submitted something similar. Whether it now that comes to fruition remains to be seen. We're going to continue to push. I don't have a final answer for you.
And to President Biden's point, a question about today's discussions. President Zelenskyy, the $50 billion today, you've had the supplemental, of course, from the U.S. Congress recently. Can you give us an assessment of the situation on the battlefield right now and what has been given now? How long will this get you in terms of either stopping the Russian advance or making headway on this? And how long will it last you if indeed future leaders or current leaders are unable to reach consensus on further aid packages? And President Biden, I'd welcome your assessment of the situation currently on the battlefield and what difference the supplemental has made as well, sir. Thank you.
Дякую за ваше запитання. Ми дійсно очікували фундаментального пакету підтримки в Конгресі Сполучених Штатів Америки. І ми дійсно, це була велика пауза для наших воїнів передусім. Але важливо, і ми вдячні, що наприкінці ми маємо цей пакет, і це точно посилить наших воїнів. Так, це дало можливість за цю паузу 6-8 місяців ворогу спробувати окупувати Харків, але ця спроба була зупинена нашими воїнами. Була дана відсіч і, незважаючи ні на що, зірвали їх всі плани. Мені здається, що це найголовніше. Що дає цей пакет, який прийде? Цей пакет дає можливість укомплектувати ті резерви, тих хлопців, ті бригади, які готові, для того, щоб вони можливість дали ротаціям, щоб ті хлопці, які втомлені, які на полі бою, щоб могли вони відпочити, щоб могли бригади відновитись, щоб замість них вийшли інші бригади з технікою. Ось що дає цей пакет. І підняття морального духу, і підняття сили наших бригад. Мені здається, що це найголовніше. Наскільки це вистачить? Дивіться, ми без пакету тримались 8 місяців. І ніякого успіху у русських не було. І тому питання, наскільки вистачить, мені здається правильніше, наскільки вистачить єдності в світі, єдності в Сполучених Штатах разом з європейськими лідерами. Як будуть впливати ті чи інші вибори на цю єдність? Мені здається, на це потрібно дивитись саме так. Зберегти єдність, зберегти цілісність світу, цілісність демократичного світу. Тому що, якщо не витримає Україна, не витримає, я впевнений, демократія багатьох держав.
By the way, the idea that we had to wait till we passed the legislation overall, even held up by a small majority of our Republican colleagues, was just terrible. And there's a lot more money coming beyond what's already come in the other tranches that are available now that we've passed the legislation. So they'll have what they need and get it there as quickly as we possibly can.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Telegraph, будь ласка. Telegraph, please.
Good evening. My name is Yaroslav Zharinov, Telegraph UA. Thank you for this opportunity. I have a long way from Kyiv and have enough time to prepare such long question. Firstly, to Joe Biden. Mr. President, the additional Ukraine Supplemental Appropriations Act that you signed mandated the submission of strategy war for the war in Ukraine within 45 days after its enactment. This deadline passed on June 8th, and now yet the international community has not seen this strategy. Has it been developed? And if the strategy is classified, what step does your administration plan to take to hasten Ukrainian victory in the war? It's my first question. The second will be to the President Zelenskyy.
What was the last part of your question?
Has it been developed, this strategy, and what steps does your administration plan to take to victory Ukraine in the war?
The steps we're going to take to make sure that Ukraine has victory and that Russia does not prevail is continued support, what we just signed. We signed that, and a significant number of nations have signed it. We have convinced the G7, we've got support of the G7, and quite frankly, 48 other countries. We sat with the Prime Minister of Japan, South Korea. We have 50 nations have signed up beyond the NATO and the G7. And so we're going to stay as long as it takes. With regard to the plan, that is a plan in process now. We're discussing with our Ukrainian friends exactly what it would be. We have a lot of movement toward that. We know the outlines of it. We have not done the detail of it all. But we know what Ukraine is capable of doing when given the material to defend themselves, and that's exactly what they're doing now.
І друге запитання до президента Зеленського, буде українською. Останнім часом ви зробили ряд досить різких заяв на адресу Китаю, і при цьому в пресі поширюються чутки про можливий початок поставок китайського озброєння до Російської Федерації. Окрім цього, Китай, ймовірно, просуває власний мирний план серед інших країн. Які мотиви у Пекіну зараз? Чи можливо, на вашу думку, переломити бачення Китаю і яка в цьому роль Сполучених Штатів? Ну і, мабуть, фінальне запитання. Чи є, на вашу думку, Китай спільником Росії у війні проти нашої нації? Дякую.
Скільки? Too many questions. Okay, but yes, I understood that your trip was long. First of all, I had phone conversation with the leader of China by phone. He said that he will not sell any weapon to Russia. That is the first. We'll see with you. We'll see. But he said to me, if he is a respectable person, he will not, because he gave me the word. The second, you know very good with details our peace formula. It's very open for everybody, basing on charter Yes, your nation, and you know that it bases on next principles: territorial integrity, sovereignty, nuclear security, food security. If China has alternative view on it, it can prepare alternative peace formula. If we share common views on it, like with globally with all the world, I think so. So if they share the same way to peace, we will find dialogue.
By the way, China is not supplying weapons, but the ability to produce those weapons and the technology available to do it. So it is, in fact, helping Russia. Thank you all so very much. Appreciate
This
it.
concludes our press conference. Thank you, everybody.
And that is President Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy holding a news conference after meeting on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Italy. We'll have more on this in NTD's Capital Report at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Next up, the U.S. Supreme Court has unanimously rejected a challenge to the abortion pill mifepristone. This allows the drug to remain widely available. The court dismissed a lawsuit saying that the group challenging the FDA did not have legal standing to sue. The justice said the plaintiffs failed to show any injury and that they could address their concerns through the regulatory or legislative processes. The decision means that the pill can still be obtained within 10 weeks of gestation and can be dispensed by healthcare providers other than physicians. Mifepristone is a critical component of the most common form of abortion in the United States. And next, former President Trump holding separate meetings today with House and Senate Republicans in a bid to unite the party ahead of the 2024 general elections. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez joins us live from the Capitol. Luis, hi, what can you tell us about today's meetings and what was unique about them?
Of course, good afternoon, Steph. Well, what was unique, it's the first time that the former president comes to Capitol Hill since the events of January 6, 2020. Earlier this morning, former President Donald Trump met with a House Republican conference at the Capitol Hill Club. The meeting lasted a little over an hour, and the former president immediately left. But I had the chance to speak with Congressman Derek Van Orden, the Republican from Wisconsin, to ask him what the main takeaway for House Republican Conference was from this meeting. Let's listen.
What was the main takeaway from this meeting? For
unity, Donald Trump working to maintain and grow the majority in the House, take the Senate and the White House, move forward collectively to have a country that is safe, secure, and prosperous. I was sitting there. I had to wipe my eyes because I was laughing so hard because people don't understand how incredibly humorous President Trump is.
So congressman after congressman that I talked to, the word unity came to mind. They all mentioned that former President Donald Trump showed unity with the House Republican Conference. I also had the chance to speak with Congressman Michael McCaul, who's the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and he has had some public and open differences with the former president regarding national security policy, but was pleased to hear what the former president had to say today. Let's listen to what Congressman Michael McCaul said.
Yeah, he talked about that. That was the first thing he talked about was, we got submarines off the coast of Miami now and how dangerous it is right now. And it is. I mean, every week it's something new. We got 2 hot wars, a hot zone in the Pacific, and we got Russian warships, off the coast of Miami.
I also spoke with Congressman Byron Donalds, a member of the House Freedom Caucus, the Republican from Florida, and I asked them if the former president had any policy demands for a House Republican conference, specifically regarding the Department of Justice. Let's listen to what Congressman Byron Donalds had to say.
Did President Trump mention anything about House GP strategy towards the DOJ?
No. He just talked about what he talked about was just how ridiculous the DOJ is. They have been weaponized against them. That's just a fact. And, so he talked about it, expressed himself. I think any American in his shoes would feel the same way.
I also caught up with Congressman Bob Good, the chairman of Freedom House Caucus, and I asked him what his reactions were to the meeting with the president. He had no comments. This is particularly interesting that he participated in the meeting knowing that former President Donald Trump is actually endorsing his rival, Steph. So that was this morning's House Republican Conference meeting with the former President Donald Trump.
Now, Trump also met with Republican senators on Capitol Hill grounds. What can you tell us about that meeting?
Yes, right after noon, former President Donald Trump met with Senate Republican Conference at the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Also, the meeting lasted a little bit over an hour. The former president then gave a press conference after, very short, very succinct. Let's listen to what the president had to say.
This was a great meeting. There's tremendous unity in the Republican Party. We want to see borders. We want to see strong military. We want to see money not wasted all over the world. We don't want to see Russian ships right off the coast of Florida, which is what they are right now. That's unthinkable. We want to see just success for our country.
It's important to note, Steph, that Senator Mitt Romney, the Republican from Utah, who has had public differences with the former president, did attend the Senate GOP meeting with former President Donald Trump. But Senator Lisa Murkowski, who just recently voted in favor of the federal protection for abortion, did not participate in the Senate GOP meeting with former President Donald Trump. Back to you.
All right, Luis Martinez, thank you for that report. A new report says only a quarter of all job growth since 2019 went to natural-born U.S. citizens. The rest went to legal and illegal immigrants. The Center for Immigration Studies published a new report. They analyzed data from the U.S. government's household survey. It found that the number of employed U.S.-born Americans increased by less than 1 million from May 2019 to May 2024. The number of employed immigrants has increased by 3.2 million. The center points out that the number of U.S.-born men trying to work has declined dramatically since the 1960s. The report concludes by saying that policymakers should consider encouraging work among the millions of working-age Americans. And when we come back, are inflation pressures easing a bit? A new government report is showing positive signs.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms. But then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
Hi, I'm Tim Che, the director and writer of The Firing Squad. You can participate in our Million Souls campaign, inviting everyone you know to Jesus. Listen, we all face some kind of firing squad in our lives, and yet faith in the Lord, that challenge can lead us to true peace in this insane world. We can't do it without you. We're competing with big Hollywood movies, so we're relying on your voice to spread the word. Thank you again for supporting this important movie.
New information suggests that inflation is easing, and a major cell phone provider signs a multi-billion-dollar deal with the U.S. Navy. Here's NTD's Don Ma with today's Business Matters.
Thank you, Steph. So new data is suggesting that inflation pressures could be cooling because last month, U.S. wholesale prices edged down a bit from the previous month. And the Labor Department reported that its producer price index declined. So this tracks inflation before it reaches consumers. Gas prices help drive down the number. This was the biggest drop in producer prices since October. Now, as for core producer prices, which, by the way, excludes food and energy costs, this was unchanged from April to May. And for the first time in nearly 2 years, government data showed consumer prices were unchanged last month. That's for the CPI. Some experts believe this new data will give the Fed the confidence it needs to lower rates, while others think the fall in producer prices may come with negative consequences. All right, other than that, wireless carrier T-Mobile said today that it has been selected by the U.S. Navy to supply communication technology as part of a $2.67 billion contract for the next 10 years. And the contract will enable all Department of Defense agencies to place orders for wireless services and equipment from T-Mobile. This is according to the company. Now, the contract includes voice, data, fixed wireless solutions, Internet of Things, and mobility management solutions, and provide connectivity for government activities. So government agencies can also leverage the company's partnership with Elon Musk's SpaceX, according to T-Mobile. And the contract comes at a time when telecom providers are grappling with a slow wireless market and stiff competition. All right, that's all from me, Steph. Back to you.
Thank you, Don, and thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox.